Not gonna lie, the day I really lost faith in humanity was the day someone bitching about a Pixar theory described media literacy as taking something at face value. That one hurt. That one hurt a lot. Pretty movie. Salutations friends, my name is Brianna Tsukiyama Bond, otherwise known as No Ordinary Scholar, and welcome to Is It Anti-Queer? The Critical Failure series. Now granted, from where I am at, I have only read the first 4 books of the Critical Failure series, but I really wanted to talk about it because it falls into that genre of satirical comedy that I feel like a lot of people take at face value and don't really give a chance. So let's discuss it though. So the book series Critical Phase, you have this group of, I think, 4 main friends that play caverns and creatures. They invite this dude from that they found on like a newspaper ad who is a professional cavern master. He gets there and is like super into the game. Dude has a cape. He is ready. He is into it, and they start making fun of him. The cavern master, Mordred, retaliates by sending them all into the actual game where they have to fight to survive. Why do people perceive this or maybe think of this as something that is anti-queer? Well, this book is definitely full of that classic early 2000s gay as an insult bit. So, on face value, it definitely can seem like it is anti-queer, but what did I say? What did I say? This is something, like I said at the beginning, that I see a lot of people jumping to when it comes to a lot of satirical works. This, Family Guy, American Dad. And ironically, the issue here is the same thing a lot of these same people complain about when it comes to books. It's a lack of media literacy. It is not being allowed to have a shitty character that isn't a reflection of the author or isn't a role model. I'm sure you can tell by now, I do not think that this book is, and the series is anti-queer. Here is why. These guys are assholes. The book wants you to think of them as assholes. Well, the entirety of the trouble they're getting into is because they're shitty people, and you are seeing them change over time from being shitty people because every time they do something shitty, something bad happens to them. And that's the same thing you see in like American Dad, Family Guy. Someone says something homophobic and then immediately gets kicked in the face by a horse. The confusion is they think that that homophobic joke the character said is supposed to be a joke for the audience, but that's a joke for them. That is maybe a joke for the other characters in universe, but the audience is supposed to laugh at an asshole getting kicked in the face by a horse. Editing Brianna here. I just wanted to pop in and say that another thing of why I connect so much with some of these satires and why I appreciate having these satires, where you get to see this immediate gratification of, oh, a shady human being immediately punished, seeing them suffer, seeing karma immediately hit them after being shitty. Oh, it's so satisfying. And it reminds me of this quote that was in a book on Black Panther and the cultural significance of it. And specifically, this quote is about being a black kid and seeing the comic of Black Panther beating up the KKK. And the quote is, the KKK was something to be feared. They were hosting cross burnings on top of Stone Mountain. It was real and it was terrifying. So when you had a character like Black Panther taking it to them, you were like, hell yeah. Even a comic book character doing what needs to be done helped to calm some of your rage. It allowed you to function in the world without being worried all of the time. And that's what it is for me, is this seeing someone somewhere actually suffer for being a terrible person made it feel like there was like some hope, some inkling that maybe justice does exist. Maybe there is a chance that things can get better, especially when day in and day out, it's very clear that so many people that aren't already in these positions don't actually, so many allies in these spaces don't actually have values and don't actually meaningfully care about these oppressions, these abuses, these bigoted ways. It is an outlet. It is a relief sometimes. That's also why I love Monstrous, is seeing bad people get what they fucking deserve is so cathartic. And it's something that I need a lot of the time to not scream. But that's not my only note here. And hear me out on this. I need you like breathe, listen, give me a chance, okay? The bigotry here is atmosphere. Hold on. Note I said atmosphere, not aesthetic. I think it is an active part of the plot. And I think it is an active part of the setting. This is most obvious when it comes to the storyline for the character of Randy. Again, I'm really gonna need y'all to hear me out. Like, take more than 2 seconds. Just let me speak. So in this story, you have this character of Randy. He is a registered sex offender. Keep going with me here. He was caught in bed with a 16-year-old boy that he claims showed him an ID that he just didn't read as fake. We are well aware, had this been a man and a girl, there wouldn't have been any charges. There wouldn't have been any legal issues. And people actually would have considered the nuance of, hey, if a kid shows you a fake ID, you've done your due diligence. You've done everything you were supposed to do. The kid just looks older than their age, and they gave you incorrect information. They lied to you. They deceived you. What else are you supposed to do? There is nuance in that situation that would have been upheld and respected and acknowledged had this been a straight scenario in this town. But in a town like this, there's no doubt in my mind that they wouldn't give a second thought to criminalizing a gay man. And frankly, I could go into the actual history of this, but I don't need to. Florida. Just the entire state of Florida right now is jumping through hoops upon hoops to criminalize the existence of queerness. Now, there is something to be said about the fact that there is a cop character in this story. This cop who is very anti-queer towards Randy throughout the book. But then you get to a scene where he sees one of our main characters who is a halfling. So he is a small male. The cop sees him as this fictional small male creature, thinks of him as a child, and threatens to jail Randy unless he lets him assault the quote-unquote child. And there's definitely something to be said about the trope of the anti-queer guy is just closeted, but it's hard to fully hate that trope. For me, it's hard for me to fully hate that trope and fully dismiss that trope with the consistent in the news revelations that all of these fucking politicians that are demonizing the queers, accusing the queers of assaulting children, all of them have done it themselves. And it is a very active political maneuver, especially seen by the fascists, to accuse someone of the thing you're actually guilty of. I understand the overall harmfulness of the trope, but it's hard to completely knock it when the overall context is a relatively political situation that they've been put in. If you know what I mean. Like, this isn't just some random asshole. This is specifically someone, a part of the system that would have worked to criminalize Randy. This feels more like a reflection of that political strategy than just general, any asshole's actually just a closeted gay man type of thing. Hi, so it's Editing Brianna, and I want to add a bit more explanation as to why this trope, the trope of depicting a bully abuser as just closeted queer, is harmful. And there are two things in particular that I want to talk about.
and they're actually similar in some ways. First is the history of queerness being portrayed and linked with violence, immorality, hate, and cruelty in media, and how this is often a scapegoat when they're like this hate and this cruelty actually stems from like systemic oppression, and those are the things that actually drive a person to be cruel. And it's doesn't even necessarily have to be anti-queerness as a systemic uh, abuse. It can also be misogyny, racism, the kind. But again, I do think there are things to consider with regards to the fact that in this story, in this situation that we're talking about, the person is a cop. The person that is the abuser is a cop and is someone that is actively and acknowledged within the text as being part of the bigoted system that is upholding this systemic abuse. Um, the second point is where I have to actually rescind my prior assessment of not anti-queer. And it's the second point that, and I believe it was Aiden Thomas that had said this and explained that the issue with people, especially like making jokes when this kind of situation does come up, is that when they do it, they want to dunk on the perpetrator, but they're not making jokes about the hypocrisy of being queer and then using what power you have to abuse other people when for the thing that you are, kind of thing. They're just making jokes about being gay. They're just making gay jokes. And they're just focusing on the fact that the person is in fact queer rather than the harm that the character's doing and that paved and the things that actually paved the way for this harm. And that is something you absolutely do see in the Caverns and Creatures series. This character, this police officer, I don't even remember his name. Once he is stripped of his power and the like team takes him hostage, it becomes a complete joke, and it's mostly around the fact that he is quote unquote queer, though there's a lot there's a lot to go in about. If you want me to do a deep dive into what exactly they do with this character, I can, but like we're gonna put quotes, some hard quotes around the word queer here, because it's, and all of this situation gets tenfold worse when they pop over to the magical world. Hence the whole like, oh, do we want to call him queer? And the story does seem to want us to join in with laughing at him. People making these kinds of jokes aren't punished for them the way they would be for a lot of other things. They're punished for making gay jokes throughout the other parts of the series that I've read, but not the ones that they make about this specific character. There aren't seemingly responses and consequences for this specific situation. And the narrative choices that the author makes with this character are absolutely made to further demonize him, demean him, with the primary focus around the quote quote queerness, instead of making jokes and taking punches at the actual abuses he did and the actual bigotry he did for the sake of control. And that, I think, is an extremely important point that I don't think I had seen anywhere else. I'd never seen this explained anywhere else, and it definitely helped reframe how I perceive this kind of dunking on someone type of situation, how I perceive these types of interactions with people. Later.
Again, there's so much nuance here that at face value, a lot of people aren't going to catch, a lot of people aren't going to stop to listen for. That's why we're here. And the reason I'm more inclined to believe that this is the route that we're going on is because the author of the books actually subscribes to my channels. Both of my channels. We were having a bit of a identity crisis with where we were putting the book streams, but he is subscribed to both of my channels, and I feel like that's not something you would do if you fundamentally did hate queer people and hated the idea that I was going about talking about how it is a corrupt system that criminalized this gay man, you know? Like, I feel like there has to be some form of value seen in what I've said in order to follow me for what I've said about your content. You know what I mean? My cats are losing their mind. Important note to end here on, though. Whether or not the story is intentionally anti-queer, whether or not the way they use anti-queerness is a reflection of the author, or if it is a reflection of a bigger political point, that doesn't change whether or not it's triggering. So if that triggers you, doesn't matter if it's for a good purpose. It doesn't matter if the overall story is very supportive of queer people. Like, none of it matters. If someone is saying these epithets and these insults and it triggers you, doesn't matter what the intention behind it was, it can still be triggering. So this is not about how seeing these words makes you feel. This is about how they are used towards the story, and sometimes those are two completely different things, and that's okay. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked my video here, please go back and check out some of my other videos. Subscribe. Check out my Romeo and Juliet video. People have been a big fan of that one, and that was the story that actually made me want to start my channel in the first place. So go check that out over here. If you want to see more of this guy being a little bean, then yes, you can check out my vlog channel over there. We have all 4 of my gatos. We move a lot. And we're just a little dork. We're a little dork. I'm a dork. If you like books, if you like to read, I also write books, the Queen of Thieves series. You can check those out. Links are down below. If you got $5 and you just want to do your best to give me the life that I deserve, thank you. I appreciate you. And I have a Patreon over there. You can support me for as little as $2 a month. But when you hit the $5 a month, we start getting some of the really good prizes. You can see some of my videos early, my YouTube videos for this channel and my vlog channels. You get to see some of those early. You also get to participate in my pre-release premieres for my books, where I feed y'all a chapter a week, as well as some behind the scenes leading up to the official release date of the book. If any of that sounds awesome to you, check out all the links down below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, valedictions, friends. Can you say valedictions, friends? Valedictions, friends. He does not want that.